We have a very special guest in studio today. He is a commentator for combat sports, a cut man, an entrepreneur, the great and powerful Jeremy Johnson.
Welcome
to
sir.
the show.
Well, thank you very much. I love the show. I've been watching. I'm like, man, I hope they ask me to be on sometime. That'd be really cool.
Hey,
so
man, that's awesome.
Glad to have you.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. I'm glad you. I didn't know you watched. That's
oh,
amazing.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Great.
Oh yeah, no,
Thank
I
you.
caught Arians and Adam Sellas, and so yeah, no, you've had some really good guests. So
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, we try really hard. So, but something we were just talking about is that I didn't know about you is you grew up in a trailer park. What?
yeah,
What like?
let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah, and now you're like a nationally recognized combat sports commentator.
Yeah.
Like, how did this like what got you onto this path?
So yeah, I grew up basically in a trailer park in Pontoon Beach, Illinois,
Okay.
and I was
On the beach.
I legitimately, yeah, like I grew up poor as all get out. But it was one of those kind of things that I was always like, all right, there's got to be more than this. And, poor can be a mindset. And from a very, very young age, I didn't want anything else. I didn't want to be a fireman. I didn't want to be this. I didn't want to be that. I just didn't want to be poor. I did not want to be, in this situation forever. And like, from my teen years, literally on, that's all I ever did. I was a hustler for different stuff. I started little businesses. I did this, I did that. And I saw that was kind of my way out of stuff. And, now it's like, to look back on it, it's like I take my kids and I'm like, hey, you know what? The place where we're buying this apartment building, I used to live in the trailer over there. And they're like, seriously? I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is real. Like you guys are doing pretty well. This is
the old neighborhood.
Exactly. This is what it used to be like. So yeah, but no, I did up until I was 19. Yeah. 19, 20.
Okay.
So yeah.
And like, so what was your first like job? Like, what did you what was like the first step as far as like?
So, like I said, I was always kind of one of those that I always have had a job. I always did something. I went to school for like tech type things, engineering background, and I didn't like any of it because I hated doing math. So I kind of stayed more towards the computer end of things and always found ways, I was like fixing people's computers and doing that kind of stuff. And that was kind of my way of like, okay, I could have a real job and I can do this on the side. So then I always had the side hustle. And once that kind of started, it was like, okay, well, I can kind of save this money over here and then move forward the next ways. And so it really kind of came down to that. And, by the time I was 25, I had saved enough money. I bought a house, did that for a bit, and then I'm like, well, if I could do this, I could buy another house if I save more. And then it got into the real estate end, which you guys understand. And it kind of really took off from there. So
That's awesome.
and this was back in the early 2000s. Like that's another thing a lot of people don't get is I'm over 50. So
you look great.
You look
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, so
Definitely
I
wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah. So, all of this is like back in late 90s, early 2000s. So
The best time to buy real estate.
Oh, for sure.
up until the 2007, 2008 crash.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then a couple of years later, it was a great time to buy.
Yeah.
100%. So yeah,
Yeah.
but
Well, how did you get involved in combat sports?
so I have always been involved in martial arts.
Okay.
When I was a kid, that was the one thing that like my parents let me do. They didn't like team sports. And later on, I figured that they didn't just want to take me places. It's kind of what it was. But I could always go to the YMCA and I did karate and things like that. And I started from like 10 years old. And I did, like I said, I did Okinawan Shorin karate for years. I did judo for years. I did, Japanese jujitsu at one point in time. And all of these were just kind of around. And so I had been around it forever. And by the time that like mixed martial arts had kicked in, I was really into it from the early days. And I was lucky enough that I lived in the town where Matt Hughes built a gym. And so I was the hit squad. And when I got to the hit squad, the whole world of martial arts changed for me.
Oh, for sure. I'm sure that was eye-opening.
Oh my goodness. And I was there at the end of the Matt Hughes era into the Jesse Finney era of buying it.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it was like, I was there, I trained, I did that. And then I kind of got into coaching side of things there for a while. And I found nobody knew how to wrap hands there whenever our guys would go fight. So that's how I kind of got started in the cutman world. All of this time I was doing like MMA media because I knew enough about it that like a lot of guys know baseball, they know golf. You can tell me stats, you can do this. I don't know jack squat about other sports, but I know a lot about combat sport. And that's kind of how it really kicked in. So that was what got me into the world of martial arts itself. And then just moving into the commentary world was a whole other thing. I was a cut man for years, and yeah, I mean, it was a lot. So
for the people out there that don't know, what exactly is the responsibilities of a cut man?
So we are the guys who, before a boxer combat, MMA, Muay Thai, anything like that, before they go, they put tape and gauze on their hands to stop them from breaking their hands. And then the people who stop the blood to keep you in the fight in between rounds. Yeah. And so I've done that for everyone from the local organizations here in Missouri to I've done a couple of shows in Bellator, Invicta FC, what became PFL, which was World Series of Fighting and things like that. So yeah.
What's the nastiest cut you've had to?
Your boy Adam Sella.
Really?
Adam Sella and Lucas Gowaltney was, if you have not seen it out there, go look it up. It is probably the single best fight that happened in the Midwest. And Adam got cut on the top of the head from an elbow, I believe. And it was a gash that was about 2.5 inches long.
Oh, wow.
It smelled like a penny when I got to him because of all of the iron in his blood. And he ran. I mean, it ran from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. And it was all 3 rounds. And Lucas, after the fight, actually told me, he's like, it was really disheartening to see that I had made him so bloody and so messed up. And then whenever he came back out, he looked great because we were able to stop it, get everything done. But yeah, that was probably the worst one I've ever worked.
I wonder why he hasn't ever brought that one.
Yeah, he never brings that one up.
It put him in the hospital for a couple of weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really?
like it collapsed his lung. He had like 9 staples in his head.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a bad one. It was a heck of a fight. Like it was one of the best fights. Like I said, it's one of the best fights I've ever seen, let alone local.
Definitely gonna look that one up.
Yeah, it's well worth it. Lucas Gowaltney and Adam Sella.
Okay. Damn. Wow.
And it is out there.
Clip in.
Yeah, it is out there. So
and we'll have our producer throw a clip together
Yep,
for us.
absolutely.
Yeah, man. Wow, that's incredible. And then so you commentate for Shamrock, a few others, right?
Yeah, I do Shamrock FC. I do their commentary. I have done Golden Boy Boxing. I've done some of their undercard stuff. I've done a few other boxing organizations and things like that. So my main mixed martial arts, though, is Shamrock Fighting Championships. So
Sweet.
yeah.
Is there one organization that you like commentating more than another, or like is it like these smaller events like what we had with Adam, the CXBJJ? Is there?
So I like doing those. I love doing the BJJ stuff, like because it's new and it hasn't been around that long. Now I look at MMA. Okay, so it's been around since '96. That it's getting into its maturity stages. The BJJ things are really cool because it's new, and there isn't a lot of guys who do it. And there isn't a lot of guys who understand it.
Yeah, and I think the commentary is just so important, especially for BJJ, just because people don't. I mean, especially for the people that are watching that don't train.
Right.
Like it's people get on the ground and they just don't know what's happening. And
Yeah, they get lost, and so that's why like my job in it is to keep the ideas moving, and my co-host, whoever's with me, either being Jackson McVeigh, Josh McKinney in this last one, it's their job for me to get them to explain what's happening and to let the layman at home understand what's going on. Like I told Josh with this last one, I said, basically what you're doing is you're explaining this to your grandmother. If your grandmother is watching their grandchild grapple right now, you got to explain to her what's actually happening. And he's like, okay, I get that. And so it really worked out. And you get some guys who are really, really good at it. And as long as I'm there to move things along, it really kind of, it helps the action. So, but yeah, I'm a fan of it. Shamrock FC has been the one that I've done, like I said, the most of. I have been with them for 15 plus years. I have commentated every pay-per-view except the first 2.
Oh,
I was the cut man for the first 2.
and there's been hundreds of Shamrocks, right?
Yeah, over the last, we're at 370 now, but they went to pay-per-view, I think it was like 12, 13 years ago. And I didn't do the first 2. It was a guy named Chad Range and Kevin Engel. And Chad was the commentary for Chuck Norris's World Combat League. And he did the first 2. And then I took over from there, and I haven't missed one in 14 years.
Wow.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, like I have never.
That's awesome.
I don't even know if I have a backup. Like I've done them sick. I have, unfortunately I missed some family things because of them, but I've never missed one.
You're the Joe Rogan of the Midwest.
Pretty much. Yeah. That's what I hear. So,
well, do you
got
have
more hair? You got way better hair though.
Yeah.
At least I got more of it.
Yeah. Do you have like a Mount Rushmore of fights that you've commentated? Obviously, you've got that.
Oh, God.
Or cut man for. I know you mentioned the Adam Sella one.
Oh, man. So I was lucky enough that I got to do a lot of firsts per people.
Mm-hmm.
I was the first person to ever call one of Joaquin Buckley's fights.
Okay.
I was also the first person to ever interview Joaquin Buckley. I was also the first person to ever wrap Joaquin Buckley's hands.
Damn.
Yeah.
I had to roll with him a couple weeks ago.
And literally, like, he wore him home to show his grandma after the fight. It was so awesome. He's up there, definitely. Oh, goodness, man. There has been so many. Vicious Bobby Volker and Cameron Von Camp come to mind. Bobby Volker is just one of the toughest guys in the Midwest that has ever been in the sport of MMA. And he fought this kid named Cameron Von Camp, who's in BKFC now. And they just went at it for 3 rounds. And Bobby looked like somebody hit him in the face with a bat. He won the fight, but by God, he wore it for like the next 3 weeks. It was incredible. So, but yeah, I mean, there have definitely been some crazy fights in the Midwest. The other thing I would call on my Mount Rushmore is like, I got to do Rose Namajunas' very first pro interview ever.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
I did that at Invicta. I've been around Invicta FC, which is the all women's MMA league, since Invicta 2.
Oh,
And so, and I've done media for them. I've worked cuts for them, that kind of thing. So yeah, I got to do Rose Namajunas' first interview ever. There's a video somewhere of Pat Barry punching me in the corner, like, cause he got so excited, he hit me. Yeah. It got like 75,000 views on YouTube in one day. It was pretty cool. Back whenever like that was a big deal,
Sure.
But, yeah, I've gotten that. I've done Michelle Waterson's first pro interview.
Karate hottie.
Yeah, exactly. She told me she wanted to be a Power Ranger when she grew up. So, yeah,
She pretty much is.
pretty much. But yeah, I've been real lucky to get, I've got a pretty big Mount Rushmore of stuff. So.
That'd be funny if her rash guards and stuff were the
Power Ranger.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, damn, dude, you've seen, fighters at their rawest.
Oh.
What, in your opinion, what separates a good fighter from a great fighter?
Oh, man. In my opinion, and I've gotten called out a lot for my opinion over the years, but my opinion of it is I can teach you technique all day long, but I can't teach you the idea of heart and the idea of champions. Because if you look at somebody like, I called Sean Woodson's fights whenever Sean Woodson was a heavyweight boxer. And like for real, like against Bo Kuntz in a boxing match. And you could tell by watching
Sean
him.
Woodson was in a heavyweight?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Sean
he
Woodson, the
started
145er, started as a heavyweight
Yes. He's
here in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
100%.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy looking at him now.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you would never know it by
No.
looking at him because he has nothing that would incline that he was ever heavy.
No.
But you could see it in them, the idea that they were going to be something because they're not just there to do the job and be done. They have a certain air about them. And I'm not talking cocky. I'm not talking any of that, but they have an air about them.
a belief in themselves.
Exactly. And, Sean's big thing has always been believe. And he was that way. Local guys wise, Jordan Dowdy was one of those kind of guys. You saw Jordan Dowdy at CJXBJJ against Kelvin Gastelum. I've been with Jordan Dowdy for years. I actually helped bring them from their old gym, CMMA, to the Hit Squad whenever CMMA closed.
Okay.
And I work with Jordan a lot, got him through Bellator and that kind of stuff. So
I've been meaning to reach out to him to get him on here.
he's a great guy. But he is kind of one of those guys that he has a purpose. And it's not just when the cameras are on. It's not just when, there's people who can influence. Guys like Jordan showed up every day, did everything that they were told, and never said a word. They were just there to do the job and make sure that they were the best that they could absolutely be. And those guys are what really makes the next champion. And I'm on like probably my 6th incantation of people in the fight world.
Yeah.
I've seen guys who have fought, now they're retired, quote unquote, or they've, they went off, they've had kids, they've done this, them, that. Now I've got ones that I called their dads fight and now their kids are fighting.
Oh, wow.
Like I've been on that long. So yeah, that one's
pretty
nuts.
cool though.
Generations. Yeah.
It's nuts, man. It's, I've got the same thing with my kids. So like my son started off in the Hit Squad at 5 years old and now he works he's a cut man too. and he travels
How
the
old is
country
he?
with me. He's 19.
Okay.
Damn, that's cool.
My daughter was the same way. My daughter was a world level judo competitor, and she, she's 25. She's been around this game since she was, 10. Yeah. So it's pretty nuts.
Dude, that's so cool. Just
Yeah.
like a big martial arts culture in your family.
100%.
Like, I love
And that's
that.
all there is. My wife is an ex-MMA fighter. So yeah.
You said that before the
Yeah.
show.
So
That's crazy.
Did you meet interviewing?
yes, but there was nothing before anything of that. So
Okay.
this is my second wife, but
Gotcha.
no, I called one of her fights, but the funny thing was I actually trained the girl who she fought.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I trained her to beat my wife up at one point in time. It happened. It's fine.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy. Wow. Damn, man. And then
That's incredible. I mean, my thing is too, is like with the growth of BJJ and MMA,
Mhm.
obviously I don't know if you could do it for MMA, but maybe jujitsu. Do you think it'd ever get to the popularity or rise that you might see it as a college level sport like you do wrestling? Or do you think wrestling's just got such a stronghold on that it's going to be tough?
well, I think whenever we lost the idea of the Olympics,
Mm.
it kind of ended that idea.
Gotcha.
I think
And
so too.
That's tough because there is so much more to jiu-jitsu than there is to wrestling that way. But even with the idea that we're losing wrestling in the Olympics is a terrible thing. So and I've been around the Olympic level stuff with my daughter forever. We used to go to the OTC all the time because she trained out there. My daughter trained with like Ronda Rousey's mother. I mean, like for real. Yeah.
Whoa.
So yeah, anytime that she was within a 200-mile radius, she'd call and Reagan would go train with her.
That's sick.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
Dude, wow.
my daughter's armbar is Ronda Rousey's armbar
Hey,
by far.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a hard, the first thing I think about with, putting jujitsu in like the Olympics or college level, athletics, the thing I always question is like, all right, what's the rule set? Because that's the thing in jujitsu that like, there's not a there's not like a defined rule set. Like every single promotion, every single like event has always got, different rules. You got the IBJJF where it's more point based, and then you got the submission onlys, and you've got kind of hybrids of both of those with like ADCC and like you just like it's like what if it were to do it, what rule set be, because it also has to be entertaining too.
Well, okay. So for you guys who are,
Yeah.
I'm big competitors, what do you like as the best rule set?
Man, I'm a fan of just the standard point
Points.
Okay.
IBJJF, like the standard 2 points takedown, 3 points guard pass, 2 points on belly, 2 points for a sweep, 4 points for rear mount or mount.
Right. Because, you look at the CXBJJ stuff, which is submission based. And, one of the very first ones I went to, Colin was absolutely dominating the guy that he was going against. But the guy tried to throw up one submission. And that's all, like, even though he got fucking manhandled the whole time, he tried one submission.
Right.
Didn't even come close to landing it, but he tried, and he ended up winning. And that's I don't know. I like how, those submission ones, they're forcing, they want to force
They force the action.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
force the action. But at the same time, like almost like a hybrid of both, I think would be a good mix. But
Well, I would almost see it like the television end of me. I love the idea of the submission only because it keeps the
Yes.
action moving.
Going.
But I think that if we're going to go into like the competitive college Olympic level, I think that the point system has got to be
It's
there.
got to be,
Yeah.
But,
it's just
I mean,
more defined.
Yeah. And as you guys know, you got to know them both.
Right.
You've got to know
Gotta
what
know how
you're
to do
doing
it.
no matter what.
100%.
So
And if it is submission only, my favorite submission only, like rule set is, sub only, but then I like the EBI overtimes.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
that's because it's like but then it's like, okay, is the person just better at escaping? It's like, it
Sure.
plays a lot of, but I like that there's a definitive winner and loser. Like
yes.
if he got out faster than you got out, or he submitted you and you didn't submit him, like that's the end. He won. Like that. I like that. I like that there's a definitive, like he won. It's not kind of judge's decision.
Yeah.
Or, ref's decision or whatever it is.
And I'm a fan of that idea because, you don't ever want to leave it in the hands of the judges no matter what. And that's cross sport.
Yeah.
That's any
That's
sport.
boxing. That's everything.
Right. Because, especially now that we're seeing all of this with the betting issues.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know.
It's crazy.
Dude,
Yeah.
I know.
That was an interesting to wake up to the other day because
I
I'm getting there
know.
going, ooh, I know him. Oh, I know him. Oh, that's bad.
That's not a good look.
I didn't bet, so we're good. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. I know. I saw that the other day too. There's like all these, allegations out there that, there's some fights that were, fixed.
And
who's the ref that they're bringing in on that?
Jason Herzog.
Yeah.
And I don't see that. I really don't. I've been with Jason on many occasions, and really? I really don't see him being that kind of guy.
Yeah.
I just don't. And, I know James Krause through real estate, and I don't, James was great. Yeah, he was a gambler, but I don't think that it was ever that. I really don't. So.
Yeah. Yeah. That whole story's
crazy.
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is. I mean, the fight world is full of ego but also humility. What's a moment in your career where, you kind of were humbled and you kind of had to swallow your pride?
I've had a few of those. I had a bad habit in the beginning of I would call people the wrong name. Ooh. Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah. Or like mispronounce it or just call the wrong guy?
I would call if you two were fighting, and he was winning, I would say Zach was winning on occasion, and I had to catch myself. But I've had a couple of times where I went back and I watched some of the stuff that I do, because I watch everything that I call.
Okay.
And when I say that, so if I call a Shamrock Fighting Championship in Kansas City, I will watch it as I drive home the next day.
Really?
And I will see where I messed up. I'm really big on, the show was great, but let's fix any problems that we had, to the point that I've been told that I'm a little over the top on it. But I had one where I called for a fighter and I said some stuff that probably was a little harsh. And when I did it, I looked back and I'm like, oh, that was probably not the best thing to say about somebody. And I actually sent him a message and I apologized. I'm like, hey, this came out the wrong way. The other one that I really had to eat was I called someone their brother's name because it was very close and they were both fighting on the card.
Dude,
but I did it throughout the entire 3 rounds of the fight.
Okay.
And to the point that
right,
they came over to me and they went, that's not him. And I'm like, oh God.
Fuck.
Okay. Yeah. I'm like, this is going to be bad.
Too deep now. I just got to roll.
We're just going to go. Yeah. So,
no.
But man, it was, yeah. So I've been humbled by a few of those, and it's just, but it's what kind of drives me to go back. And like I said, I've already watched all the CXBG.
Really?
Oh yeah. 100%. I want to see anything and everything that I've ever done, talked. And I'm to the point that I take notes on stuff. I'm like, okay, so next time I need to not say this word so much. So I'll crutch words sometimes. And I watch that. I watch how I look into the cameras and all of that. But it's just, I want it to be perfect. And I want my representation of our sport, no matter if it's grappling, no matter if it's MMA, no matter if it's boxing. Combat sports is ours, and I want my representation and me to be a representative of it, that everyone can go, okay, he really cares. And that's my biggest thing. So,
well, and on top of that too, how much are you studying actual jiu-jitsu?
Oh God.
And like between training and then watching film and watching all like clips and stuff, how much does that take it up of your job? Like
the preparation.
Yeah.
Oh, so whenever I write a Shamrock Fighting Championship show, and when I say write, I mean like everyone gets a walkout. So like you got a piece of paper from me that said, hey, fill this out.
Yeah.
And I get all the information from you, and then I kind of craft a backstory and things that will just, give something like when the lulls are there or when you're walking to the mat, walking to the cage. The entire thing for a 14-fight Shamrock card takes me about 40 hours.
Oh, wow.
And that's between the writing. I will go back and I will research everyone, no matter if I've talked to them or not. I will watch anything new that they've done. I will go back and watch their matches to see how they fight, because I want to kind of anticipate the way that they fight and how I can call it to tell the audience, to paint the picture to the story.
From here,
exactly.
Or whatever it is.
And so, I'm going to know, okay, he's going to be a predominantly stand-up guy who's going to come at you in a southpaw stance, but he's going to switch stances whenever he throws this particular kick, which there's a bunch of guys that do that. And it's just more of the idea, the preparation of it to make the best product possible. It took me to do CXBJJ. It took me a little over a week and a half to write it for everybody, just because there were so many matches.
Yeah, it was like 22.
Yeah. And so everyone gets the same treatment. I don't care if it's when the kids were doing the cards to the pros. It's the same treatment. I want everything to be the exact same and to be consistent. So
that's incredible.
it's a lot.
No,
it is a lot.
I mean, that's a
master your craft.
Right. And that's a awesome skill set. Like you mentioned training people. I mean, do you take that same approach when you're training? Like, hey, this is how I dissect film as
100%.
as announcing. Like, this is how you should look into it as well. Like, I mean, like you said, switching your feet when you go to throw a kick. Like, I mean, that's stuff that probably people. I mean, I know I wouldn't without seeing it.
And I've had a couple of different MMA guys, especially who, number one, they got really pissed when I called their fights and I told them that they couldn't wrestle and things like that. I had one in particular, and he took it to heart. He called me out on it. He was like, "I can't believe you said that about me." I'm like, "I can't believe you can't stop takedown." So it is what it is, you know. And he looked at me and goes, "Okay, I'm going to prove you wrong." And I said, "I hope you do. I really hope you took what I told you in that as to heart."
Yeah, to criticism.
And he did. And he came back, and the next 2 fights were absolutely amazing. And he got to the point where he goes, "Okay, I understand what you meant now." And now every once in a while he'll send me footage and he'd be like, "So what did I miss? What did I do wrong in this?" And even when I was like, I don't coach this guy, like not personally. And he still will be like, "All right." And I've said in the last 2 times he's fought that he was the most improved in the last 5 years.
Oh,
but
awesome.
he took it to heart of what I said, because I'm not being mean to anybody.
No,
and
you're a third party
100%
objective, just commentating what you see.
And no matter if I know the person, like, you know, I've commentated people that I've trained. I've commentated my friends. Because I mean, in this business, you're going to get to know everybody. It's a very small business.
Yeah.
And I've commentated for my friends, and I am trying to be the most impartial that there is, 100% all the time. And it was just one of those that, yeah, he took it and he ran with it, and he's done very well. He actually switched over to the sport of kickboxing because I'm like, "You're a way better stand-up than you are this." And now he's like dominating in kickboxing. Yeah.
It's awesome, man.
That's cool.
Well, I mean, just being a combat sports commentator is just, to me, seems so much different than any other commentating of any other sport, because I feel like you have to have a certain amount of reverence and like respect for these guys, because what they are doing, you know, they're going out in front of all their friends and family in their underwear in a cage and about to fight another man. Like, that's different than, you know, dribbling a basketball up and down a court.
100%.
You know, like, and the consequences are so high. I mean, your health is literally on the line.
Yeah.
Like, your life could change in one fight.
This isn't like, you know, guys playing baseball.
Yeah.
And I worked for ESPN for a while, and I did a show on ESPN called Down Goes Frazier. And I was laughed out of it because I didn't know that the Blues were in the Stanley Cup at the time. And they're like, "How do you not know this?" I'm like,
"It's not my world.
It's not my world, man, at all." And so, but yeah, it's always been one of those that I have the utmost respect. Number one, I've done it. I've been there. You know, I have trained. So like I said, since I was 10 years old, I have beaten my body up to, you know, get my black belt in judo. And it's one of those that I know exactly what you're going through whenever you're going to get punched in the face walking in there, because I've done it. And it's one of those that you have to have that respect. And I give that respect to anybody who does it. Anybody who walks on the mat to grapple. It's scary, you know, and you have the potential of hurting yourself.
For sure.
And you should be respected for that. So,
absolutely.
Oh, it's awesome, man. I love what you do. I think it's awesome. I think it's got to be just such a fun career too.
It really is.
Just doing what you love.
It's one of those things that, like, I've always been the kind of guy that in any business that I've ever done, anything like that, I'm like, once I get tired of it, I'm not going to do it anymore. I don't need it. I don't want to do it. With commentary, I'm still to the point that, like, I love it every day. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are times that I'll sit and I'll look at my wife. I'm like, "Oh God, it's fine. I really don't want to go. Nah, it'll be all right." And I'm like, "Well, this is going to be a terrible show." And it ends up being amazing. You know, you can never tell. Paper doesn't tell anything.
Right.
And so I've always been, once it's there and once it's going, like, yeah, I'm in the moment. So,
well, that's the thing too, is like, I mean, you can just look at it like with what ESPN's doing. You got the fight nights, and some of those are amazing.
Oh, 100%.
Amazing. And then you get and you have
You fork out $80 and the TV doesn't work and the fights are terrible.
Or you see a guy get poked in the eye in the first round and fuck, well, there's that.
Yep, exactly. So
I mean, you never like you said, the paper doesn't ever justify the card. Because
ever.
You could look at a card on paper and you could think it's awesome, and then it just sucks.
Yeah.
Or it's not what you expect, because everybody, that you see the big names and that's what everybody wants to see, but some of the the less known guys.
And there are times that, man, if you go to like a local mixed martial arts show, and I don't care what town you're in, here in St. Louis is where we're at. But you can go see some of these guys who are, they're fighting in the St. Anne Hall, and it's amazing. And they're there, they're giving their all just like they were in the UFC. And there are times that you see guys in the UFC that are playing it like, yep, I'm going to play this one safe so I can finish, get my bonus and get out.
Yeah.
You don't see that in the even down to the AAA level like Shamrock FC is. I consider Shamrock FC to be like a AAA, because the next step to that is going to be the UFC to PFL. Yeah. So yeah, I always look at those as like they're walking that line. So
for sure.
But even, the smaller organizations, they're still, those guys are going out there and they're putting it out every time. I just did a show last week in the Isle of Capri Casino in Boonville, Illinois, or Boonville, Missouri. And, those guys are like, they're coming off the farms, but man, they put on a show, and those guys threw hands, and it was beautiful. I mean, it was beautiful violence. So yeah, it was great. So.
Well, that's why I like the CXBJJs that they do, because that venue and the way they have it set up is incredible. I feel like it's underground. Yeah. It's like underground street fighting. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. I've always said that's as cool as it will get for me.
100%.
Like I'm a hobbyist jiu-jitsu guy. I'm full time. I'm a dad. I've got 2 kids and do real estate full time. And like, this is as cool as it's going to get for me. But like,
you don't know. I mean, there may be a time that UFC BJJ calls. So
yeah, well, who knows? But I don't know about that. But
never say never.
But I mean, I love. I've been on it 3 times now, and every single time you just feel like a superstar for sure. It's such a cool experience.
Yeah,
I look forward to it every time.
This last one was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and my goal with that is to make you feel that way.
Yeah,
I want, from the time that, as you saw, like I interview everybody again, no matter what. And I will make sure that I'm going to say your name right. I'm going to make sure that everything that you want to be about you is out. And I want to assist in that superstar experience, because you're putting it all out there to go do this. Yeah. And no matter what, I'm just a guy sitting behind a television with a camera in my face, and I'm going to make you sound like the best that I possibly can. I'm going to make you the next big thing, no matter what you're doing.
And I'll recommend this to the friends of the people that are fighting. Get a big group together and get a party bus. It's a fucking blast.
I could see that.
They showed up. They got a big group from up here, and they all took a party bus to it.
That's great.
And I rode back here with them, and it was just I won, so everybody was
pumped. Even better.
Yeah, it was
rocking
great.
Every song that had to do about winning.
It was great. It was
awesome.
Great night.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. Man, you don't just do this.
No, I don't. I do a lot.
You got a lot of other things going. So, yeah.
How?
Yeah.
How?
So this one is going to come into the I love the ideas about fatherhood and family with you guys. If you don't have the backbone at home, you can't make this work. My wife and my kids are the biggest support system that I have for what I do, because I don't feel worried about going out and doing things. I own a couple of different businesses, and, like you guys, I own some real estate. I have a technology business. I have the whiskey company. I actually have a barbecue sauce brand and the whole bit. And I couldn't do it all if I didn't have the support at home. You know what I mean? Like, and they understand it. Not only does like my son and my daughter work in the combat sports world with me, but like they work day to day in our technology business while they're in college. They understand how real estate works. We'll go through and we'll talk deals. Like I was literally talking today about how we're going to fund this apartment building deal that we're going to do with my daughter today. And, at 25, so she's like, all right. She's like, I get it. My son, like I said, is 19 and we're working on his first fourplex. So, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
that's so cool.
Yeah. You gotta have a support structure behind you. And I am literally the luckiest guy in the world that, like, my wife's like, yeah, let's go do it. No worries. Whatever. She doesn't question me about money. She doesn't question me, but she's like, you're the expert. Go make it happen. So yeah, it works out. That helps. So
Yeah, I mean, I
and she
concur.
came up with the flavor for the whiskey. I will give her that.
Yeah, there you
So,
go.
It's delicious. I mean, what?
It's funny.
Refill over
I've
here.
drank a lot of it, and it's not bad. So
Uppercut Whiskey.
yes,
And available in how many stores are you locally?
so we are in 80 stores in Missouri and 40 in Illinois, and hopefully by mid next year we're going to be in 35 more states. Yeah. So
Dude.
And the flavor cinnamon walnut, but it does not taste.
it's
like-
not. Yeah, it's not fake.
It's not Fireball.
No.
This is bourbon that you on the back end get a hint of cinnamon and walnut, and
Yeah.
it's fabulous.
Yeah, it makes a great cocktail, and so I'm a partner in a bar over in Illinois too, and I have a speakeasy over in Illinois.
Oh, that's cool. What's
Yeah.
it called?
It's called the Speakeasy.
Okay.
Yeah, we were
Where
very
at?
very
Like
original on
creative.
naming.
Hey, so are we with our name of
Yeah,
our show.
exactly. It's over in Granite City, Illinois.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's cool. I have a great partner in it, and she's an amazing like set designer, and so you walk into a meat locker, and then
Okay.
you have to find the door, and then when you walk in, you basically walk into the Great Gatsby.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, and so I've always been a whiskey guy, and so I did do the drink combos. She does the food because she's a great food person, and yeah, it works out. So that's just another thing that I've got going. So
Yeah. So
well-
what came first? Like, what was the first venture here?
So the first venture was my technology company, Think IT, and we do anything from like. So let's say that your corporation is computers, and they get rid of those computers. We're the people who take them.
Okay.
And I have clientele from Nevada to Florida. And we do like 180 school districts in the Midwest that we do all of their stuff. We do a bunch of Fortune 50 businesses where we take all of theirs, and basically then we refurbish it or we recycle it.
Okay.
And so, I have a couple of big warehouses over in Illinois.
Just full of computers.
Yeah, oh my God. I think our office at the moment has like 7,000, 10,000 in it at the moment.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And then I have another 16,000 square feet that's full. It still needs to get done. So yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So it's a lot.
So
But,
like you're going in, you're stripping it of all the like. whatever
Yeah, I mean they get
information.
broken down into pieces, and what doesn't work gets recycled. And I've always been kind of a big, I'm not going to say environmental person because I'm not, but it was more that I saw that this was like a thing that these people are throwing away these things that could be bad for the environment, like for real. Some of this recycling stuff is kind of bogus, but this was real. And so I came up with a concept of how to do it and how to make things work. And we recycle about 500,000 pounds of computers a year.
Wow.
And we only generate like 140-yard dumpster of actual things that make it to a landfill.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's wild.
yeah. And so it works out, but we have buyers all over the world. We sell stuff to Singapore, Malaysia, Brazil, that kind of stuff. And so
Wow. And how long have you been doing that?
about 14 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you've been doing that like as long as you've been doing
Yeah.
Shamrock.
Yeah, exactly. So
Wow.
that was first. Real estate has always kind of been there, just buying and selling on occasion. Having a couple rental houses or things like that. Now I have a company called Steeltown Property Investments, and we do basically single family rental units throughout Illinois.
Okay.
And so my thing has always been, I'm a big fan of the idea of creative financing and all these gurus who come out and say, don't use your own money, don't use it. And then I figured out how to do it for real, that it works out. My last house, I basically bought for $500 out of my pocket.
Really?
Yeah.
Incredible.
So in
Sub two.
oh, we do tons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
So,
Yeah, I've done a couple.
but we do a lot of contract for deed stuff.
Okay.
And it's I walked into a house, I was there for 10 minutes. I'm like, I tell you what, I'll give you $500 cash today. I'll send you over the paperwork, and we'll do like a 5%. You hold the note and I'll do this. And they're like, yeah, let's do that. So literally, like, I bought the house. I was there 10 minutes. Cost me $500. Rents for $900 a month.
Right.
600 positive cash flow out the whole deal.
There you go.
It's not bad.
No,
not
not at
a
all.
bad
Do that
deal.
a bunch of times, you do all right. So
Wow. Damn.
yeah, that was that. And then I've always been a fan of whiskey. I've always been like a huge, like, not just drinking. Like I'm a big history buff, and the history of whiskey and things like that was I really liked that. And so I'm one of those kind of people that once I dive into it, the ADHD kicks in, and I'm like, okay, cool. Now we have to know everything about it. So I went and I became an executive whiskey steward, which is
Okay.
basically a sommelier of whiskey.
Oh.
And so that in turn launched Uppercut. We were going to do a bourbon, and I didn't want to do it and, just buy. I didn't want to go source.
Yeah.
So we came up with this idea. We did probably 30, 40 flavors. Like I said, my wife came up with this flavor, and I'm like, this is going to be terrible, and everybody's going to think it's Fireball. And when it was done, I'm like, God bless it, that's amazing. And so that launched this. There was originally, there's still the potential that we're going to do a vodka, a gin. Actually, my daughter and I have been working on a gin together.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, so we're working that end of things, and so there'll be another line of it that comes. But yeah,
It's called uppercut as well.
It'll be so like the vodka is called Straight Jab.
Okay, I was gonna say it's gonna
be
right
a boxing
hook or
yeah,
something.
exactly.
Like,
so yeah, we're gonna have left hook gin.
Yeah, okay.
And so, but it's all gonna follow the labeling. So
yeah, I love
so
it. No, it's perfect.
yeah, the branding works.
On brand. Yeah,
and
for sure.
it works. I've been very lucky to have a pretty decent social media following throughout the years, and I've had a lot of great sponsors, and so I knew how to sell for them. So I kind of took this and then I sold it for me. So but my thing was I wanted to make sure that like the people who did buy stuff because I said it, you know, that it was good. And so this was, to me, I think it's been pretty good. So, and I've literally had, and I've had sponsors that are literally everything from Diamond MMA cups to suits.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, at one point in time, Joe Rogan and I were the two biggest sellers of Diamond MMA. Yeah.
Really?
As a matter of fact,
I got one of those.
Do you? Good man. Good man.
Yeah,
So
I got hit in the balls really hard like last year, and like I was super concerned. Went to the I actually went to the doctor. And
Yeah.
they did an ultrasound on my balls, which that was. If I've ever had that
terrifying.
Done, that is a awkward experience.
Yes,
especially when it's an attractive nurse that's doing it too. Because it's like, oh, that's warm. That gel's warm.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
Oh boy.
okay. You know, and this was like the same time that my wife was pregnant, so we're going to all her ultrasounds.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
it's literally the same thing.
Yep. But
turns out everything was fine. But I was in some pain, and I was like, I guess I got to get one of these cups. I never trained with a cup before. I mean, obviously, I wore one like playing other sports.
Sure.
But I never did it grappling.
Yeah.
And it's kind of I always think of it. It's kind of like a cheat. I mean, a lot of guys wear them, but
it's cheat.
it's kind of a cheat.
It's cheat.
You got a weapon you can use there.
You put that in, and if you take their back and you kind of
you can drive that thing into the back, and especially get an arm bar. You got that nice fulcrum to bend the arm on.
Absolutely.
Because I can't tell you how many times I've gotten an arm bar where I'm hurting myself almost as much as I'm hurting you.
Yeah.
But I want to finish you. You know.
But yeah, I was lucky enough that back in my old, like I said, the original podcast days with my show, That MMA Show, I had Craig Diamond on. There is actually a guy named Diamond who runs it. Yeah,
I didn't know that. I just thought it was like, it's like hard, like Diamond. I was like, okay.
No, his name is Craig Diamond, and he was in the Chicago area. And he was like, I sent these out to all these fighters. He was making them in his garage, and I ended up with one. And I'm like, hey, man, come on my show and talk about it. And he came in the next day. He sent me a message. He's like, hey, I sold 10 of these last night off of your show. What do you want? And I'm like, I don't want anything. Just send me one. I think that's cool. I had a buddy that I was training, and he got kicked in the nuts, and I was like, we got to find something better because we're all getting killed.
Yeah.
And that's where I found him. And so, yeah, it was funny because now he's like got this big staff of people and all of this. And I sent something and I'm like, hey, I need a new promo code because and the lady was like, oh, well, you're not in our ambassador program. I'm like, hi, ask Craig who Jeremy Johnson is. And she's like, oh shit, I'm sorry. Hang on. And so, yeah, so like I got, so now like I got promo codes if y'all need them out there in the whole bit. But,
sweet.
But no, I was able to sell like a lot of that. I sold a ton of suits before Tom James Custom Clothing, who makes all my stuff for Shamrock. And so, yeah, so I figured I kind of knew how to market on social media. And so whenever I brought the whiskey about, that kind of brought that about. So I was able to use what I had learned with it to sell the whiskey. And the best part is once you drink it, you're like, okay, this really isn't a gimmick. It's pretty good. So, a lot of the flavors out there are kind of gimmicky. So
for sure.
But yeah, this one, and we have a pretty good relationship with our distiller. I still talk to them every 4 months or so, and we make sure that everything is good. So
that's awesome.
It works out. Yeah.
Man, that's incredible.
And then you barbecue sauce also.
I do have a barbecue sauce. That was an interesting one. It's actually made with Uppercut Whiskey.
Ah, cool.
So, I threw my wife a 40th birthday party at a restaurant here in the St. Charles, Missouri area. And the chef made everything with Uppercut sauce because they carried it in the bar. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And so when we were done, I went to the person who hosts the parties for me because I've been very lucky in some of the relationships that I built with people. They're like, oh yeah, you want our entire room? No problem. You can have all of this and we won't charge you, and just bring people and tell them that you're here. Cool. No problem. So we did that, and we threw a 40th birthday party, and they made everything with it, and they made this barbecue sauce for one of the entrees. And I'm like, this is amazing. And everybody kept talking about it. And in my business brain, I'm like,
let's bottle this and sell it.
What could we do? Yeah. So I asked her, I'm like, hey, so I asked my host, I'm like, hey, can I talk to the chef? And they're like, absolutely. So apparently she ran to the back, goes, look, Jeremy Johnson wants to talk to you. And he came out like stoned, like, oh shit, like, what did I screw up? And I'm like, so you made the barbecue sauce? He's like, yes. Yeah. I'm like, it's amazing. He's like, oh, thank you. And I said, so you want to sell me the recipe? And he looked at me like dead, like, what? And I'm like, you want to sell me the recipe? He goes, I've never had anyone ask me this. So I said, well, welcome to your first time.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I said, let's go a different route. How would you like to make this barbecue sauce? And he goes, can I think about it? I said, sure. I said, I'll call you next week. I have a feeling he probably thought he'd never thought another thing of it, that this guy was just talking because they'd been drinking all night. Yeah. And I called him a week later. I go, so what did you think of my plan? And he's like, if you're serious, he says, like, I think this would be great. And I said, great. Okay, cool. We'll meet at my bar because I have a commercial kitchen, and let's make a batch and we'll see what we can do with it. I brought in my friend, Matt Frazier, who is one of the producers for actually CXBJJ. Used to be in Knuckle Junkies, and he's an amazing artist. He does all of my work for me. He's like my right-hand man of stuff. And so like he created the Uppercut logo and everything. I'm like, you want to be a part of this too? And I'm like, he's like, yeah. I said, so I gave everybody equity. But I'm like, I'll fund it. And so we bottled and had made barbecue sauce, and it's been pretty cool. So, yeah,
that's awesome.
Gosh.
Very, very like niche batches. I mean, we do 600-700 bottles a year, but it's good enough that it was like, it's fun. You know what I mean? So I'm not looking to make $1 million off of everything. And it's just one of those that kind of stuff is fun. You know, the tech company, it's not sexy. It's not, clean. It's dirty. But
the non-sexy stuff is what makes...
Exactly. The non-sexy stuff is what makes money. Yeah. So, and that's, if anyone takes anything away from this show today, that's my whole thing is, man, it doesn't have to be sexy to make money. So,
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, you've built, you've lost and rebuilt.
I have.
what did losing everything teach you about ego and what success actually means?
So
when did you lose everything?
So I started real estate. I lost everything in the crash of 2008.
Okay.
And so you guys being in the mortgage business, you know all about subprimes and blah, 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 and how it all went down in the real estate business. So I had leveraged pretty much everything together. And I had about $1.6 million worth of real estate at the time. And basically in the fall of not being able to get anything into commercial, no one was taking commercial real estate at the moment. I couldn't sell it. I couldn't rent it. I couldn't do anything with it. And finally I went to the bank and I said, look, I'm not making the payments anymore. And they were like, that's crazy. You've never missed one. I said, I know, but because I funded it off of everything else, but it was just getting to be so much. And, I had put everything into it. And so I'm like, I'm going to release all of it to you guys back. And they're like, okay, we understand. So I went from having a net worth of about $1.5 million in 2007 money to nothing within like,
wow.
And you want to talk about just getting kicked in the face because, you're riding this high. You're doing anything and everything that you want to do. You can, my daughter used to go to school and tell her that daddy bought her a building with an elevator so she could ride up and down it when she was little, that kind of stuff, And it was like, I had, cool cars, fancy watches, the whole dumb thing. And it really, really humbled me about what I do now. I learned a ton. I learned, number one, I don't trust my ego. I trust my gut. And that was a big thing because I thought I could do anything in the world at that point in time. You've got so much stuff going on. You've got so much money flowing in that you can't spend it fast enough because you guys know in real estate at that point in time, if you had stuff, you were making just money hand over fist. And so it took me a bit. I knew the formula though. I knew what made me the money in the first place and I knew what made me lose it. And so I once everything settled and I gave it a few years, I was able to start back into the process. And with the process, I was able to kind of bring myself back over to it. But by God, now I don't talk about it. I don't, you couldn't catch me doing anything that would be like, I don't buy over the top cars anymore. I don't buy, any of that kind of stuff. And I research every deal that I do. Every deal has nothing to do with ego. It all has to do with numbers. If the numbers don't work, we pass on. Even if I think that I could make it work on my own, it's not worth it. I know what it got me the first time. And so now it really, really opens your eyes to the idea of well, number one, what really matters, because you can have all the money in the world and everything still suck. I went through that. And then you can have nothing, but everything is pretty cool on the family front. It helps out a ton. And so that was kind of what built things back up. So, yeah.
Well, we're starting to see that on our side on the, not quite to the scale that we saw back then, but I mean, we just had another loan officer on, the last episode and, talking about debt, like refinancing and doing debt consolidations and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, everybody's trying to keep up with the Joneses and they're spending money they don't have. And next thing you know, like, hey, you're refinancing out of this 2.5%, 3% rate that you got back in 2021 up to 7% just to pay off those high interest credit cards that you had to live.
Yeah. That you had to use to keep up your image.
Right.
And to me, that's not anymore,
No.
Yeah. I wasn't that bad. I didn't do like to me, it was just more like literally like the real estate just didn't pay for itself anymore.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like I'm not looking for anything crazy anymore.
Well, that's like Warren Buffett. He still drives the same old freaking beater that
Absolutely.
he's had for years.
Yeah.
He's not driving anything fancy.
Nope. I drive a 2015 BMW, older school. I got a 1990 something convertible. That's my fun one. Nothing crazy.
Nothing crazy.
Well,
Nothing
that's the
crazy.
thing.
So
It was like, I was riding high in that 2020, 2021
Mhm.
mortgage era. Now granted, I still didn't do a ton of refis. I did some, but I was like, purchase business was so hot back then. And I went out and I bought a Land Rover Defender. And I was like, man, this is a badass car and all that stuff. And I'm just like, once I hit 60,000 miles on it, and
then it all broke.
I was like, it was like, it was
Yeah,
20
problem after problem.
$500 for an oil change. Like, just stupid shit. I'm like, this isn't like who am I trying to impress here?
Yeah.
So
especially with that thing, 'cause I had a Land Rover. They're the worst cars ever. But
Yeah,
anyway.
I went and traded it in for a Jeep. I'm like, this is perfect. This is all I need. It's still nice, but it's not flashy. It's not anything. It gets the job done, gets me from A to B, and my payment was half of what it was.
Yep, exactly.
So it's just, I don't know. My ego caught up with me.
Yeah.
And and learn real fast. I think the greatest thing too is like, one was the divorce. That was a big ego hit. And then 2, getting into jiu-jitsu and get my ass kicked every fucking day.
There is nothing that will kill your ego faster than combat sports, because you're going to get your ass kicked by a 14-year-old kid who's been training since he was 5, and you have no idea where it's coming from.
Speaking of a 14-year-old, how about that fucking dude that took the fight on 30 minutes notice at CXPJJ? Holy shit.
So Talon is an anomaly.
It's insane.
He's been around. His dad was a coach for a long time. His mom is like
I was standing next to his dad.
And, Joe's a great guy. He's at Destruction MMA back in the old days. His mom, I think, is a fitness bodybuilder. And Talon is like,
does not look 14.
No, he's like 6'2", 220.
Yeah.
He's 14.
Yeah.
And the kid freaking out wrestled a brown belt.
Destroyed.
And it was nothing but heavy top pressure. And, it was one of those that and I think he just went to Greece and came in like runner up in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he does. I was talking to the dad, and he's like, because he doesn't do any gi. It's all no
gi, all wrestling type.
Yep. And so, because I was like, well, he's 14, so obviously he's not at that level to get the belts. And he's like, he's like a very beginner.
Yeah.
Belt.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's like a green belt.
Yeah. Well,
or whatever.
I lose track of the kids' belts.
I think that's
because there's so many.
Yeah.
I think that's like the low. I think green's
like the one right before blue.
Yeah.
Or I think at least that's the only reason I know it is because I remember there was a girl I trained with at Finney's. She was like 14 or 15.
I don't even know if he was green then
16,
because he was
a blue belt.
Yeah, because I guess he had only been doing. He'd been wrestling forever.
Yeah.
But he'd only been doing jiu-jitsu for a few years, so he wasn't very far into jiu-jitsu. But
boy, is he a monster!
Holy shit! And they were just like, he's won worlds, multiple times. ADC.
Could you imagine? You're this, you're this cool, you're big guy, you're this well known, you're this, you're that, and then all of a sudden you get ragdolled by a 14-year-old.
Oh my God.
It's a lose-lose for that guy that he's
100%,
beating,
because if you
it's-
kick the shit out of him, you kick the shit out of a kid.
14-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, but if you win, if he beats you, then you got your ass kicked by a 14-year-old. It's like there's no winning in this one for you.
But
That's not your typical 14-year-old.
No.
But that's
On paper though, it doesn't look great.
No, but you want to talk about being humbled. It's a great way to be humbled. And I've had a lot of in the ideas of training. I've had a lot of kids who kick the shit out of me. You know what I mean? Like it got to the point, like my daughter used to be able to beat me on occasion. Now I got to use every technique in the world to keep my son from kicking my ass, just because they're all about it. So yeah, but
It's like today I was rolling with Amanda, who's maybe 5 foot, 120 pounds. And she was just kicking my ass.
Yeah,
I was like,
100%.
Hey,
Dude, she was making that one girl ring the bell like 3
times.
times. Have you heard about the bell at our gym?
No.
At Watson's.
So Kyle's got he put a bell up, and it's it's like a little bell like right by the front where the timer is, and it says Devil's Handshake above it. So anytime if you get wrist locked, you have to go up and ring the bell.
Oh my. Okay.
So she
it's like
three times in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden this poor girl she was rolling with just had to go up and ring the bell.
I've always loved
You
the
look
way
over
Kyle
and
coaches.
Amanda's like smiling. Like,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It's so funny.
But no, that's and any time like that is a humbling experience,
Oh, man.
man.
Yeah, man. Oh gosh, it really does humble you. Like on the fatherhood front, what
Sure.
how did your life change when you had children?
Oh boy. It scared me to death. It legitimately scared me to death. I was like, man, I'm this guy who, like I said, came from next to nothing, and now I got to provide for somebody else. And that was when that kicks in as like a dad. You're like, all right, nothing else now in the world matters. No matter what, this little thing that just happened, this matters. And that's always how it's been. My daughter and I are pretty close. We're pretty close, but both my kids are. But, it was one of those that like, I at that point in time, I'm like, okay, now I have to figure out how to pay for college. I have to figure out how to make sure she has a great life. I have to make sure that she never experiences anything in the world that I did. And that was gigantic because it took the ideas of me growing up in a trailer park, me being, for most of my life raised by my great grandmother, for all of this, it ended. And I'm like, all right, none of the shit that's in my head anymore matters. I have to make sure that this is correct and that she doesn't experience anything like that. And it was the same when my son came along. I'm like, okay, we're doing all right now, but I still got all this other stuff. And this is what matters, is to make sure that they have what they need and will never experience what I did. And so that was a big deal to me. And that was always been kind of my driving force. It was funny. I actually told both of them because, my daughter is a senior in college and my son is in his second year of technical college. And I'm like, okay, well, we made it. I did what I said I was going to do. You've gotten through college. You haven't had a bad, a tough, you haven't had to have, worry about where the food's coming from. You haven't worried about any of this. So I think we've done all right. So I had a moment the other night. I'm like, all right, I think I made it.
Yeah, I did.
All right, we did it. We're good.
Yeah,
So yeah.
check that box.
Yeah.
On that same breath, raising them and within the family businesses and combat sports, what values are you teaching them?
Oh goodness. Number one is that no matter what you have, no matter what you've been able to do in life, no matter where you've been able to go, you are no better than anybody else. You don't ride my name no matter what. And, with my son, like I said, with my son being a cut man on his own, he's all about the idea that, no, I'm not Jeremy Johnson's son. I'm Mikey Johnson. You know what I mean? And so they're both really big into that. My daughter, especially, my daughter has never been the one to go, yeah, my dad did this and I can do that. And she's all 100% on her own and always has been. But yeah, it's the idea, like I said, most of all, of you be humble in what you have and be humble in where you've been. And that's a huge thing to me because I don't want them to ever be for lack of a better term, the spoiled rich kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because, just because dad bought you a BMW and an Audi for the first cars that you had doesn't mean that you're any better than anybody else. I was just lucky enough that I was able to make things happen. So you don't brag about it. You don't do this, you don't do that. And so that has been a gigantic thing. Both my kids will tell you that, yeah, they may work in the family business, but by God, they started sweeping the warehouses just like everybody else. They've made the minimum wage jobs that's just like everybody else. You don't get to show up late. Don't get to, take off days that you slack around, that kind of thing. You don't get to do any of that just because you're my kid, just because, your name is in the trust that gets us in the day. It just isn't. So they had to start at the bottom just like everybody else. And I think that that's kind of made them, you would never know, you would never see it from them that they, they've been able to do everything that they have. So that's a big one to me. I don't want them to grow up and be spoiled kids. So
Yeah, 'cause that's something that, I feel like anybody that's kind of pursuing a career and, that has accumulated about a good amount of money, you don't want to show them that it's, that they're, you just don't want that spoiled rich kid.
Right.
Like that's the last thing I think anybody wants.
Yeah. And it was one of those that, I was, like I said, I was very lucky that I was able to tell both my kids whenever they turned 16, all right, you can pick whatever car you want. I'll buy your car. You get the first one. I ended up buying both of them too because they wrecked them, but but I'm like, but think about it, because you have to pay your own gas. You have to pay all this other stuff because you can pick it. And when they both decided, one wanted a BMW, one wanted an Audi, and they were like, all right, well, wait a minute. Gas is really expensive. I'm like, yeah, I guess you got to have jobs now, don't you? So,
and oil changes are expensive on these expensive cars.
Yeah, that was $300, wasn't it? Yeah, that's what you make in a month, right? Damn. Must be tough.
Just to, you worked all month just to drive that car.
Exactly. So now like one drives a VW and one drives a Ford Fusion, so, but they learned, and it's one of those lessons. All right, cool. You gotta let them fall. You gotta let them fall on their own. And that's another big thing is, they all know that, dad could get them out of some things if they needed to, but doesn't happen very often.
That's good.
I've let them have to deal with speeding tickets on their own and the whole bit. So
that's good. I'm glad that, that's
100%.
That's something that my parents really instilled in me. It was like they didn't, I would, I had to buy my own car. I had to work. I had to get a job the second I turned 16. I grew up very, I don't want to say privileged, but I never wanted for anything.
Right.
Like, there was always, I never had to worry about where my next meal was coming. My parents both had good jobs. We lived in a nice house. I always went to, nice private schools.
Right.
Like I lived a very good life, but they instilled in me a work ethic from a very young age.
Absolutely.
And that's something that like I am very, very thankful for now. And, at my age now that was instilled in me at a young age. And
because it keeps you moving.
Yeah.
And you don't sit back and you don't think, oh, well, it was cool. I can do this later. No, you got to do, it's now, it's time, because if you don't, you're so far behind that the kids that you see nowadays that are kind of that, they're the mousy, they don't talk. I've never ordered for my kids in a restaurant ever.
Yeah, my kid's 3. He orders his chicken fingers and French fries every time we go out to eat.
Absolutely.
It's like, tell him what you want.
Yep. 100%. And I've instilled that. So now, like, my son will go do, he'll go do shows by himself. He's got to talk to everybody because he's the guy in charge. It is, it is what it is. My daughter runs our sales department. And so she's got to talk to everybody that walks through the door. And so it's one of those that if you don't start them young at that idea, then you're going to be hosed, because later in life, you're going to be the one who's going, now tell them what you want during they're 17 years old, so.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like with mine, like, one of the first things I taught them once they were able to speak and be social was you walk up to somebody, you shake their hand, look them in the eyes, say, hi, I'm Connor. What's your name?
Yep.
And that, like, stuff like that, but like the ordering and all that. But like my parents, like, work ethic was huge. Like everything you're the best at. Like you do to the best of your abilities and push that. But then also like to be independent, like be different, don't follow the crowd, be independent. And then the other one was logic. My parents are very logical. The emotion side of things was not there for them, but the logic side of things. So it was great. But, the biggest thing, like what's awesome to hear about you is like, you're not letting your past define you. You're not letting your kids past in the way you raised them and them being, in a much better situation than most define them.
Right.
And for me, like that was the biggest thing for me was like, my mom was a loan officer for 47 years. And the thing that pisses me off the most is when people are like, oh, you're only successful because of your mom. No, fuck
Right.
that.
Yeah. 100%.
I'm successful because I built my own fucking business.
Yep. Exactly.
Like that drives me nuts, which I'm sure your kids are probably the same way. And your
Yes.
son's probably going to be the same way. And like, no, I'm not successful because my dad was a cut man. I worked my fucking ass off. That just like everything that you're saying, like you're by you saying, oh, I'm only successful because of my mom, or your son's only successful because of you, is just, I mean, it's I don't even.
It's a slap.
It's a slap in the face.
It's a slap to you.
Yeah.
Because no one, and, like you guys at the beginning, you said, yeah, I grew up in trailer park. Nobody knows. I've never said that in another show. And I get a lot of times that people are like, oh, well, yeah, you're just, you're the guy from Shamrock. You do this, you do that. I'm sure that, you're loaded, you're this and that. And I'm like, well, yeah, but you didn't see what it took for me to get here.
Right.
And I will put me against anyone else that I will outwork you every day of the week. Like I said, I have literally in the last 2 weeks had 7 17-hour days. You guys ask me how I do it. That's how I do it. And when I say that, like, I'm not joking. I was at a client in Chicago. I literally drove to Chicago, did what I needed to do, drove home, got up the next day, drove to Muncie, Indiana, did the same thing, drove back the next day, came back, drove to someplace in Kentucky, came back up. Next day, I bought out a company in Indiana. I drove to Indiana and we finalized the deal. There is no one who will outwork me. And that's kind of one of those things that every once in a while I sit back and I'll say something. And my wife not only was an MMA fighter, but she was a clinical therapist. Okay. And so she looks at me and goes, you do realize there's nobody that does this. She's like, this isn't normal. And I'm like, okay, great. But this is how high achievers make things happen.
Right.
And she was like, yes, but you have a little bit of the ADHD. It's fine. So, yeah. But
dude, I think the ADHD is a superpower. Dude.
Absolutely it is.
It's a superpower. Like I don't, I think that all the ADD medications people are on and stuff, it's just, I feel like you're really like suppressing.
Yep. Exactly. You're suppressing your potential.
Just because a little boy can't sit still in a class for 7 hours doesn't mean it's a problem.
I can't sit still for 2 hours now.
And it's a superpower. Like I'm able to, but I guarantee you find that little kid something that he likes and get hyper fixate on it. I bet he could be incredible at it.
Absolutely.
That's my youngest son. Like in school wise, like, he's very smart, but like he has a hard time paying attention. He's bored. But I could sit him in front of a 1,000-piece Lego set, and that motherfucker, he's 6. He'll be 6 in December. He'll knock that thing out, no problem.
Yep.
He loves building things. He loves that stuff. And like, he could sit there for hours. And then I was just talking to my ex-wife on the way over here, and my oldest was getting recognized because he's very empathetic. Like he's very like he can pick up on other people's emotions, and he's willing to like step in and be helpful to those people. Mm-hmm. My youngest is empathetic, but he sees those people and he's like, "Oh, fuck them." It's true.
Yeah.
He's like, they're fine. And Connor wants to be the center of the attention. He's my oldest. Where Ollie, he's very like. My ex-wife was like, yeah, he was just out front kicking the soccer ball with himself for like 2 hours yesterday.
Yeah.
Like he finds that thing and he's on it and he loves it. But when he doesn't love something, he's going to be running around doing whatever the fuck he wants.
Oh,
yeah. And I'm like, that's great. I don't like if you're going to call me and complain that he's not paying attention or doing this and that. Well, find something that's going to entertain, like keep him.
Exactly.
Engaged.
I had a teacher once in school, in high school, who told me and my parents both that I would never amount to anything because I couldn't focus on whatever the hell his class was. And I can't remember what it was. I remember I walked into a restaurant one night and him and like 10 of his family were there and they were having dinner. And I walked over and I'm like, "Are you Mr. So-and-so?" And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I want to thank you for something." And he goes, "Okay." I said, "One time in my life, you told me that I wasn't going to amount to anything because I couldn't focus on this, that, and the other." I said, "Well, I found a few things that I really like to focus on." And I walked away. I said, "Thank you very much for it." I walked away. I bought his entire table dinner. I bought them all the desserts that they would want, including to the point that they were bringing them like full cakes out for everybody. And I just wanted to prove a little point.
Yeah.
And
flex,
so, yeah,
for sure.
exactly.
Motherfucker, you were wrong.
But it was like,
there's that ego. Hey,
I was like,
it's okay to flex.
It's all good.
It's okay to flex
so,
it every once in a while.
But it's one of those that if you can take it and use it, man. And
dude.
I still remember shit that people said to me 20 years ago. And I'm like, all right, I'll show you.
I've got a similar, similar thing that happened to me. I was in a business venture with someone, and I ended up deciding to step away. And before I left, he basically said that this is the only chance you ever have to be successful. And this was
Shit.
this was my and he had all these promises that had not come to fruition, and he told me that. And then that was leaving that business I put my heart into that thing for 3 years, and leaving that was the hardest decision. It's still to this day one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. And but he told me before I left, "Are you sure this is the only chance you're ever going to have to be successful?" And that right there, that line that he said to me fueled me. And I got my real estate license within the next year, and then it took off and did what I did. But that right there fueled me. So I was like,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna prove you fucking wrong. I had this whole thing in my head that one of these days I'm just gonna show up to his house and show him my fucking tax return. And be like, motherfucker, I thought you said I was never gonna make this kind of money. Like, look at me now.
Yeah, just go buy his restaurant.
Yeah,
Yeah. 100%. Absolutely.
But it's not something I think about anymore. But for years, that was something that was like on my mind, and I was like, I'm gonna prove him wrong.
But sometimes you need the fuel.
It was fuel,
and there is 100% nothing wrong with that. I'm of the name that I want that. Sometimes I want to be able to I want to be able to prove people wrong. Whether it was, somebody growing up who told me that I was going to be a goof off and not amount to anything, or that, well, just because you came out of this, you really don't have the capability to go this, or, you never went to college, so you can't do this. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to fucking show you how this is really done. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this, because I've had this thought, or I know this about myself, but like, if there was something that really interested you, that like, do you know that you'd be successful at like a job or a career? Like if you knew that piqued your interest, that you'd be successful at it? Because in my mind, the way I look at things, and I've had this conversation, I know it sounds cocky, but it's just not, it's confidence in my work ethic. Right. Like you mentioned, that I knew that if there were no matter what I went into, that no matter if I had an interest in it, no matter what I went into, I was going to be successful at it.
Yeah, I have that mentality for sure.
100%, absolutely.
100% I do. Because I remember telling my wife, we've been together since we were 18. And, I don't remember telling her some way. I was like, I really don't know what I'm going to do, but I promise we're going to be all right. And I'm going to be successful. We're going to be making X amount of dollars. Like I promise. Like we're going to be fine. We'll be, I'm going to be able to provide us a good life.
Yeah. Mine is, I have always been, if I like it, if I like the idea of it and it sparks my interest, and I jump at it. I'm one of those kind of people though, that like for the longest time, I actually had a notebook by my bed that I could sit and write whatever came to me in my head at night. And that was actually how some of the real estate stuff came about, and a couple other things that I've been involved in. But I'm one of those kind of people that if I see it and I start to focus on the idea of it, if I start to truly do the math, because everything to me now, after I lost everything became a mathematical equation. And so like, if I get an idea in my head, I'm like, okay, cool. Let's put it to paper. I'll write the business plan for it. I will see, is there a true potential of it? Cool. If there is, let's go for it. And so my daughter and I are going to launch into a basically like a mobile bar business. And
that's cool.
She's a great bartender. She works at my bar. And like I said, with being a whiskey steward, I'm all into it. And so it wasn't like, oh, cool, this is going to be a fun thing for my daughter and I to do. I'm like, if she wanted to do this then as a career and skip what she did in college, we're going to make this a thing. And we did the numbers and we did the math to it, and it all works. And I'm like, okay, cool. So now we're sitting down and we're going through how the business end of it works. How do we start the LLC so I can teach her how to do that? How do we start the idea of the potential of financing it? How do we work on equipment and things like that? And she's really receptive to it. But yeah, I'm one of those kind of people, 100%. If I think that I could do it, I will be the best at it. Yep. And I will be the best at it until I am no longer, I'm as high as I can get. That's my whole thing. Yep. I'm as high as I can get, and then I'm ready to do something else. So, and then everything runs on its own. So like the whiskey, basically it runs on its own. We deliver to a distributor. The distributor takes it to the stores. I have a couple of people who do some social media stuff for it. Like I said, Matt helps me out a ton. And so it kind of runs itself. So that was great. It's been done. I've done it. Let's move on to the next thing.
Right. Barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, exactly. Now, all right, cool. So now we're going to do this other thing. And then, I've got a few other interests that I've invested in and things like that. So yeah, it's all about the idea of if I can focus on it and I can make it happen, then let's go for it. 100%. So
That's so cool, man.
Which I think is something that a lot of people just don't have. They don't have that belief in themselves.
I think that's sad because I think
Agreed.
everyone has, I'm not special in the least. I am not special.
Neither am I.
And it's one of those that like, I tell anyone, if you have a passion to be a commentator, I'll tell you how to do it. I sat down with a gentleman here in St. Louis who he wanted nothing more than to be a ring announcer. And I said, cool. We sat at a bar one night in Kansas City and I told him like, I gave him 2 hours of my time. Here's how you do it. Here's how you need to practice. I've had people who came to me. They're like, I want to commentate a sport. I'm like, cool. You do this. And I will tell anyone how to do it. I'll tell anyone how to make money in real estate. It's not, there's money for everybody. And so if you've got the humbleness to listen and ask, because I've always been one of those kind of guys that if I'm going to do something, I want to ask somebody who's done it. And I have had 2 mentors in my life that were instrumental. And it's where I've gotten a lot of how, the whys and things that I could bounce people off of. And that's another thing. Not only do you need the idea of the family behind you, but if you need somebody to help you who has no want for gain, you're ahead of the game by far. If your mom was in the real estate game, no matter what, in the mortgage business, she could help you and she had nothing that would make it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I had a mentor who owned 6 car dealerships. He owned a condo complex in Vail, Colorado. He owned a billboard company, and I could literally, because I took care of his IT stuff and I would do anything that he asked me. I didn't want anything from him other than, he paid me for what I did, but I never like, oh, hey, could you help me with this? I never asked for money. I never did anything. But if I could go to him and go, I'm thinking about getting into the idea of buying an apartment building. He'd be like, cool, here's what you need to do. Here's where things could go wrong. Here's what you need to prepare for. And he wouldn't help me. He wouldn't finance. He wouldn't do anything like, because I never asked for it. I'm sure he probably would have if I asked, but it was more that I had somebody to help me. And so if you've got the idea that I can make it and you can find somebody who did it before you, the formulas are all basically the same. Yes. Whenever you guys are doing mortgages, whenever you're buying houses, it's all basically the same. Mm-hmm. And if people understood that,
buying $100,000 house is the same process as buying $1 million house.
Absolutely. Financing is basically the same way. There's other types of loans, but it's all kind of basically the same. And if you could find someone who will help you with no real want or gain, and there are people out there, you know what I mean? Like I said, I've had people ask me how to commentate. I've had people ask me how to buy their first house. I'll tell you all of it that I know personally. You may not like my idea. You may not be the right for you, but it's at least somebody who did it. Mm-hmm. And I think if you can find somebody who did it ahead of time and find that as a mentor, you're far above and ahead of the game.
And I've been very fortunate in that fact. I mean, my mom was in the business and she was there and her name opened up doors that it probably wouldn't, but I still had to walk through those doors.
I still had the door may have been opened,
but I had to take the steps through it to build those relationships.
And if you didn't, you're still sitting on the outside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I've also been fortunate with my business partner and then 2 other loan officers out of my branch. I mean, I came into fresh off a pro ball, not knowing a fucking thing about mortgages, maybe through osmosis with my mom, but not knowing a damn thing. But I walk into an office with 3 fucking killers that are all anywhere from $50 to $70 million producers a year on their own. So I walk in and I'm like, well, fuck, I have to get to that level and as fast as I can. And so it took me a few years, but I got there. And so, but it's kind of all coming around now. Cause I remember sitting when I moved into my new house, right before I sold it, I was really close with these neighbors. They have 5 boys and the second oldest was getting ready to go off to college. And their friends were like, well, Pat, you're 30 years old. You've got this $500,000 house. What do you do?
Right.
I'm like, well, I help finance the American dream. I give people money to buy homes. And one of the friends was just like, wow, that's really cool. I'm interested in that. So he graduated high school. Didn't know this until just recently. He just texted me a couple of days ago. Got his finance degree and real estate degree. And wants me to mentor him once he graduates in June, May next year. I'm like,
And-
fuck yeah, let's do this.
and-
I can teach anybody how to do this.
And that to me is a big thing because you guys had experienced it because you've made it and you've made it to a specific level. Well, now, of course you want to help out people.
Right.
Because like I said, there's enough money for everybody. And it does me more now to help people. I would rather see someone who thought they could never be anything become what they wanted than, chase. I love that idea. I love the idea, to, like I said, to the point of helping a couple of guys one of the guys who commentate Nemesis came to me at one point in time. And he's like, hey man, tell me about it. I'm like, yeah, no worries. And I'm not coy. I'm not, I'm like, here, I can tell you how I did it, how I started, how to practice, what you got to do. Not a problem.
Did that renew your like passion for it?
Yeah. I'm one of those kind of people that like, I always have the passion. But I really enjoy the idea of teaching. That's why I loved coaching.
Same.
And so I like the idea of I can pass my knowledge on to the next person because, I've done pretty well with teaching it to my kids. I've taught my mother how real estate works. My mother supplements her income with rental houses. Works out perfectly, easy game. Now I'm like, all right, cool. Let's help the masses.
Yeah.
If you want to learn how to buy houses, if you want to learn how to make whiskey, I'll teach you. Not a problem. So,
yeah, I mean, I did it with baseball when I was still playing. I would get pitching lessons, but
Sure.
it made me a better pitcher.
Absolutely. Teaching someone because the mechanics of it.
Yep.
And you have to sit and look at everything that you take for granted, whether it be real estate or whether it be jujitsu.
Right.
You take everything that you know for granted that is an automatic movement, and you got to break it down for somebody else who has no idea what's happening. It works. It's the same for combat sports as it is in business.
Yep.
It really is. It all correlates. And I think that's why you see a lot of guys who are in the combat sport world who are pretty successful at doing things outside of it, as long as they weren't just, meatheads who got into fighting. But there's a lot of guys, man, who, say it again, for whatever may or may not have happened. James Krause is a freaking genius of real estate. The kid is a genius about it. And he taught so many of those guys in his gym how to do it that like they would win a fight bonus in the UFC. They'd go buy a house instead of blowing it on a car. That's so
awesome.
smart.
Yeah.
I've always told people like, I had a friend who I worked with him as a boxer, fought in Golden Boy. And I mean, we're talking like mid 6-figure fighter in Golden Boy. And instead of going back to the hood and buying a cool car, he bought a car wash.
Dude, those things make
exactly
incredible money.
He came back, he bought a car wash. He bought a couple of rentals. And by God, he's doing just fine if he never boxed another day in his life because of it.
Sexy about it.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to be.
Just like storage units and storage spaces.
Absolutely.
It's so smart with fighters in particular, just because, like, I mean, any professional athlete, I mean, there's a timeline there.
Yeah, you got a specific, you got A to B, and that's it.
You're gonna get into the early to mid 30s, and your body's not gonna work like it used to, and you're fighting these 20-year-old killers. Coming up.
Not just in fighting, but think about. I mean, did you guys ever see that documentary, the 30 for 30 Broke, on Netflix? Where it's incredible. It talks about it goes through all these professional athletes from NBA to baseball to football to just all these different major league sports, and how the percentages of people go broke once they get done playing because they didn't manage their money correctly. And it's just like, hey, you have a short window to make a shit ton of money, but what you do with it, like what you're doing with it then, is what's going to carry you on for the rest of your life. I mean, how awesome would that be? Especially like NFL. What's the average? Like 4.5, 5 years.
4.5, 5 years. Yeah.
You can make hundreds of millions of dollars in that 4.5, 5 year period. And what, you're going to be you have nothing to show for it 5 years later?
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, can you imagine?
That's insane. Could you imagine
just sitting like after the fact, after everything's all gone, you're like, I had all this and it's gone.
Like the statistics of people that win the lottery that lose it all within years.
Yeah, within like 3 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Because unless you have somebody to sit you down and go, this isn't going to be forever. I look at our business, the technology business, that goes in waves. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, we're going to make a whole lot of money from about here to about here. And then for the next 3 months, it's going to be barren. And we prepare. And that's how the game works. And that's why you're all still employed. And so it works. And I think that if you take that into the idea of life, that you're going to have some really, really great stuff and some really, really bad stuff. And as long as you know that it's coming and everybody does it, you're not special with it, you're going to be okay. No matter what, no matter if it's, you know, you lost your job, you got divorced, it happens. And it's just something that you have to deal with. And I think that that's why if you've got a mentor that understands it, you know, I had a couple of guys who asked me like, man, how did you deal with divorce? And I'm like, well, it sucked, but it was the best thing I've ever done by far. And so, and I'm like, cause I have a couple who were like, this is the worst. I'm like, absolutely it is. It's the worst time in your life right now, but it is going to be much, much better and things are going to be amazing and it's going to be okay. And if you have somebody, especially men, you know, cause we don't get to talk about our emotions at all. We get no feelings. We can't.
That's what we do here. That's what we try and do here.
And it helps because, you know, no matter what, we're supposed to be the big tough guys, especially in the fight world. But there are times when you need somebody to just go, look, man, it'll work. It's going to be okay. And I'm more than happy to be that guy for anything that everybody wants to be. So yeah, I'm big into that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It is. Well, Jeremy, this has been incredible having you in here, man. We really, really appreciate your time. I know
Absolutely.
you're a busy guy, and thank you so much for bringing us some whiskey.
Of course.
And
probably won't last long.
Hey, you know, we got plenty, so we can make it happen anytime you need it.
I'm definitely going to drink some after this weekend.
Absolutely.
But yeah, before we get you out of here, though, we do end the show the same way every time. So
play a little game. We call it the Tombstone game.
Okay.
Here lies Jeremy. What's it say on your tombstone?
Father, friend. Those are my two big ones. It's always a father, friend, and good partner. Because if you can be those three things, you've made it in life. Doesn't matter how much money you got in the bank.
And after that last talk, mentor, mentee.
Yeah. Yeah. If you were a good father, you were a good friend, and you were a good partner to your person, that's all you need.
That's perfect. Well, thanks again for coming on. And thanks to everybody at home that watched or listened to this episode. If you haven't clicked that subscribe button yet for us, please do so. Pat and I are trying to get to 500 subscribers on YouTube before the end of 2025. So help us hit that goal. Share this episode with a friend. Comment what you thought below, and we will see you next time.